why not stand up, support what we're doing, speak against Donald Trump's cuts to the Department of Education so that we can not only have excellence, but we can also have equity.
If we focused a lot more on the classrooms and a lot less on the educrats and in the Illinois education industrial complex and started caring more about the kids and their outcomes, that'd be a good thing. So let's support President Trump. Let's streamline these agencies. And for once, let's start putting kids and start putting the people in your communities over the special interests that prop you up.
State Representative Will Davis and State Representative Blaine Wilhauer yesterday on the House floor here in Illinois, reacting to the news that there have been cuts at the U.S. Department of Education. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Thanks for being with us each and every weekday morning. And you can get these clips anywhere you get the show, but you can also find us on podcast, and don't forget the newsletter as well. All right, so get to the centersquare.com where you can get that newsletter, but you can also find all of the headlines here from Washington, D.C., talking about that spending bill that the Republicans are trying to get through. You've got other headlines about the IRS and other states being impacted by a variety of things. So go get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. But one thing that obviously is everybody's got their eye on is what is happening with the U.S. Department of Education, because there have been, reports of some cuts and some bureaucratic red tape being removed. And all of this we've kind of heard about for the past few weeks. Even during the campaign, Donald Trump, when he was running for a second term, he laid out he was going to get rid of the Department of Education, and to a big applause in the crowds that he would have. But he also said during the campaign that he would keep the money going to the states and maybe just shift the Department of Education's operations to something else. But ultimately, that's what he ran on. That's what he got elected to do. Again, getting the popular vote, getting the Electoral College, and winning all the swing states. So it wasn't a secret that this was something that he was going to be doing. It looks like he's moving forward with that, but it's giving Democrats on a national level and also here in Illinois a talking point that they will continue, it sounds like, to hammer against. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday speaking to the Illinois Education Association, the state's teachers union, essentially, and one of the largest unions in the country. Here's the governor with a speech, a very political speech that he shared on the state's website.
Everybody in this room and the 135,000 members you represent, whose commitment is to maximizing the potential for every student in the state of Illinois. Now, the Doge bags in Washington. I'm sorry, I may have misspelled that. They hate that we're succeeding in Illinois. They just hate it. It drives them absolutely crazy, and I love that it does.
So Pritzker went on to talk about Donald Trump and Doge, and in front of the Illinois Education Association, warning about the closure of the U.S. Department of Education, and he went on to essentially say, hey, it's time, union, to get up and stand up against Trump.
That is right. Fight back. If they hear from us, and if they hear us loud and clear from teachers and parents and students and their voters, we can beat them back. But we're going to have to fight for it. Are you ready for the fight? IEA, are you ready for the fight? Yeah. Let's go get them, everybody! Let's go beat them!
The governor using that fight and beat rhetoric as the political temperature in this country really hasn't seemed to have calmed down even after an election. Here's the governor talking a bit with the press afterwards about the language he was using, the concerns that he has about all of this.
Look, you're talking about billions of dollars that they're trying to take away, right? In the case of Illinois, it'd be about $3.5 billion that they would take away. that is not something the state of Illinois can replace. It just isn't. And don't forget, and Becky Pringle mentioned it just a moment ago, they're also going after Medicaid. And those are two things that kids in our public schools rely upon, the funding that comes from the federal government for education and Medicaid funding. 50% of the funding for Medicaid comes from the federal government. There's no way the state of Illinois can write a check for what will be more than $10 billion, perhaps $15 billion to replace it. We're going to have to obviously do whatever we can on the state level if this becomes the eventuality. But what we're doing now is standing up, speaking up, fighting back, and making sure that if at all possible, we will keep them from damaging public education in this country.
So the governor continued taking some questions from members of the media, and that was in Rosemont, I believe. He had two events yesterday. One was in Rosemont. The other one was also in Rosemont with the Sustainable Aviation Convention fuel. It's like a sustainable aviation fuel. It's a big conversation that people are having right now about, the agriculture industry and how they could possibly take part in making jet fuel at ethanol. But anyways, that's another conversation for another day. Back to the U.S. Department of Education, where you've got the debate spilling onto the Illinois House floor even. So it seems like for the past few weeks when the legislature comes into session, Democrats on the House floor, even though they're not passing bills, they get up for what's called points of personal privilege. The points of personal privilege range from, hey, check out my visitor today. His name's this, and they do that. Or, a proclamation of sorts, but they also will just get up and talk politics, especially national politics, it feels. The past few weeks have been really hammering on that. Everything from the tariffs and the impact on agriculture to trans issues to energy. We've heard about this, but now the education issue with the news that you've got some kind of actions happening behind the scenes with the Department of Education where, it looks like things are going to be dismantled here soon, something that Trump campaigned on. State Representative Will Davis, a Democrat from Hazel Crest, got up to criticize that and to say it's time to stand up.
So in as much as you talk about the need for excellence versus equity, we're not going to even have excellence if Donald Trump does exactly what he wants to do to supplant his people in the Department of Education to make sure that states like ours don't receive funding for basic educational rights. Title funding serves the lowest income individuals in the state of Illinois. It serves those that don't have.
And if you recall, last week we talked about the State Board of Education not complying with President Trump's DEI executive orders, saying that you can't do diversity, equity, and inclusion anymore. And you've got people pointing out that saying that DEI, in their estimation, is racist by focusing on somebody's outward characteristics instead of the merit of their work. That's people point out that. And even in legal filings, even in court cases, even in discrimination cases, they point out that it's racist to do that. So the idea that the state could be having some federal funds withheld, it could be $2+ billion. You heard the governor earlier there say it was going to be $3+ billion. Regardless, you've got State Representative Will Davis decrying any potential cuts.
So why not stand up, support what we're doing? Speak against Donald Trump's cuts to the Department of Education so that we can not only have excellence, but we can also have equity.
Now,
thank you very much.
All of this excellence versus equity conversation stems from a couple of weeks ago where State Representative Blaine Wilhauer and State Representative Will Davis in an education committee had a debate about the difference between excellence and education. And when Davis was on the House floor yesterday, he actually brought up Wilhauer's name in debate. When that happens, it gives the other person who is named the opportunity to speak. And that's what Wilhauer did. He got up and he responded.
Equity. We hear about it all the time. It's all talk and it's no action. We've been operating under this Marxist principle for a long time, and the people that we are purportedly trying to help with these processes, the results keep getting worse. The results keep getting worse, and we can go over all the numbers, all the statistics, but the bottom line is 3 out of every 10 kids in this state are reading at grade level. We talk about Chicago public schools, we talk about minorities. It's even worse than that, all right? And, Representative Davis and the folks over there, I would have a lot more respect for you on this principle. We could talk about equity. You could come at me with equity, but how can you do that? How can you preach that when you're trapping poor kids in failing schools? We had a great program in this state, Invest in Kids, that was offering opportunity scholarships at no cost to the state for 9,500 students. Where were you on that? Where were you on that? I'll tell you where you were at. You're hiding under your desk like everybody else because you guys care more about your bosses and the teachers union than you do about doing the best things for kids. You killed that program because you care about them more than you care about the kids that it's uplifting. I would have a little bit more respect for you and those folks over there if during this whole quote-unquote pandemic where our tyrannical governor was shutting down every school, if you guys would have stepped up and done your job and done the right thing for kids then, but you didn't do it. You didn't do it because you're afraid of our tyrannical governor and you're afraid of the special interest groups that were punishing our kids and depriving them of a normal childhood, increasing suicide rates. Our education system is in shambles because of it. I would take you a lot more serious on equity if your policies hadn't destroyed the communities that you purport to uplift. I would take you more serious on equity if places like Harvey, which you represent, weren't paying 4 times the effective property tax rates of the richer communities in your area that a lot of you guys represent over there as a result of the policies that you've pushed as you've controlled this chamber for basically a generation. And as far as the Department of Education, yeah, let's get rid of it. I support President Trump in that endeavor. The Department of Education was created under Jimmy Carter, and has education got better since then? Has our results got better? Have our scores got better? Are kids learning more? No, they're not. I think that we should actually take a look at limiting the powers or moving towards getting rid of the Illinois State Board of Education too, because their policies aren't any good either. All right? So, I think that if we focused a lot more on the classrooms and a lot less on the educrats and in the Illinois education industrial complex and started caring more about the kids and their outcomes, that'd be a good thing. So let's support President Trump. Let's streamline these agencies. And for once, let's start putting kids and start putting the people in your communities over the special interests that prop you up.
So again, that's State Representative Blaine Wilhauer, and that was after you had 4 different speakers from the Democrats get up and talk about all the impact they suspect is going to happen with the Trump administration's actions with the U.S. Department of Education, and they spent a good 20 some odd minutes with 4 different speakers, discussing things. So Wilhauer gets up and provides that, especially because one of the speakers, Will Davis, responded. But since Wilhauer used Will Davis's name in debate, Will Davis got back up for a second time to address the issue.
Well, Representative Wilhauer, and yes, I'm using your name again because I'm not scared to. It's interesting when you talk about 3 out of 10 not supposedly being able to read. I hope you all realize on that side of the aisle that he's talking about your kids too, because 3 out of 10 kids is not just Chicago. That's everywhere in the state of Illinois. So basically, he's saying that your kids can't read either. Hope you heard that. And that's fine. Again, Representative, what we talked about was you're not speaking up to what's happening in Washington, D.C. So that's right. Your poor kids, like mine, benefit from those title programs. Now, if you don't want them to benefit from it, tell your school districts to return the money. Tell your school districts to give back the money that they're receiving. If they don't like EBF, they can return the dollars. They don't have to keep them. So please have that conversation with your superintendents and see how they respond to you encouraging them to give back the money.
Davis went on to talk about how he's not hiding under any tables. He's standing up, but he went on for another 2 minutes or so. Then Will Howard got back up for a second time on his end to address this situation, where he went right to the point about this whole idea of Will Davis saying, well, if you don't like the way things are going, then give those tax dollars back.
Please note that we've instituted the 2-minute timer.
Oh, I get a 2-minute timer. I'd like to see Will Davis on a 2-minute timer. I think the entire General Assembly would like to see Will Davis on a perpetual 2-minute timer. But yeah, number one, just to clarify a few things, just because the president is eliminating the Department of Education, it doesn't mean these programs are going away, all right? We're just going to look at this and make sure that we're streamlining this stuff. We have plenty of bureaucrats in our system to take care of all of this stuff. And as far as, my community's not receiving tax dollars or education dollars and things of that nature, as soon as you exclude my communities from paying income taxes or property taxes or any of these other things, maybe we can talk about that, Will, all right? But that's not going to happen. The bottom line is, you guys have been in control of this chamber. You've been in control of our education system. You've been in control of the institutions for generations. Results are getting worse. Fix the problem. Less talk, more action, Will.
That's, I think, how things are going to go for the rest of legislative session. We've got weeks left. May 31st is the deadline for them to pass bills with simple majorities, including the budget, the largest state budget in state history. What are they going to do with all that money? What about all these other policy issues? If you're not subscribed, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We do Illinois in Focus daily each and every weekday morning, and you can get segments, including this one, at the Center Square on YouTube. I'm Greg Bishop for Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll see you soon.